Welcome to NXCam 20-minute Tech Tips. Today's demo is on Get the Code You Want by Customizing Your Posts with Post Builder. The demo is going to last approximately 20 minutes, and then we'll stay on the line and open up a chat window for Q&A. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Jim Wright, who's going to be doing the presentation and demo today. Welcome, Jim.
All right. Thank you, Aaron.
Great.
What Post Builder can do. We'll talk about the benefits of Post Builder, and one of the big benefits I think of Post Builder is that it is a graphical user interface. It gives you a visual confirmation of the NC code flow. You can drag and drop items where needed. You can also add custom code where needed. So the custom code does require a little bit of knowledge of TCL or tool command language, but we have a lot of examples that are pre-built and put into the system ready for you to use. We also give you a library of common machine styles. So basically we've worked out the kinematics for a lot of different varieties of 3, 4, and 5 axis milling machines. Also for wire EDM, lathes, mill turns. We really have those already in the system. Another benefit of Post Builder is that we give you a library of common controls, including those from, of course, Siemens, and then Fanuc, Heidenhain, and a few of the older control styles or smaller builders. So the great thing there is we give you the combination of the kinematics for the machine types and the combination of controls for the control. You can really mix and match and build the machine that you need fairly quickly. Another advantage that we have is we can link posts together for a complex machining center. So if you have a multi-channel mill turn, instead of building one really huge complex post, we simply build several posts and link them together so that on any particular operation you're using the correct post for the operation type that you're doing. Another advantage to the Post Builder process is I can access information that's not available in any CL source file. I can dig down deep and get information about the tool, the part material, even the NX session or the user that's logged into the machine. So I can grab lots of information about the entire operating system while I'm post-processing. And then, of course, ultimately, you have control over the post-processor. So if you need to make changes to it, you can do that. Okay, that's enough of death by slideware. Let's get on to the demo. I'm now going to share my screen. Okay, Aaron, can I get a confirmation? Okay, good. So this is the Post Builder dialog here up in the top right-hand corner. There's not a lot to it until you've actually started to create a post. One thing I do want to turn on before I start a post is I want to go to Options, Backup Post. I want to make sure that Backup Every Save is on. It's a good idea when you're building a post to have plenty of backups, so I have one backup every time I save it. I can always delete them later on, but it's difficult to go back and redo some of the information that I've modified sometimes. So I'll make a new post. I'll choose File, New, and the system says, okay, what kind of post are you going to create? Well, I've got to give the post a name. I'll call it my name 1, Jim 1. I can put in a description, but I'm going to create a 3-axis milling machine post, so I think that description is fine. I can decide the post output. I'm going to choose millimeters this time because I've done a lot of work lately in the metric system, so I'll choose millimeters. And then for the machine tool, I can build a post for a mill, a lathe, or a wire EDM. And as I choose one of those radial options, there's also a drop-down list available that allows me to further specify the type of mill that I'm going to build. So I can build a 3-axis mill, or perhaps it's a mill turn. We have 2 types of 4-axis machine kinematics available, and 3 types of 5-axis machines. Since this is a demo and I've only got 20 minutes, I'm going to use a 3-axis milling machine. My next decision is the controller type. If I go to the library, as I mentioned earlier, we have a library of controls that are available. Of course, we're Siemens, so we definitely have all the Siemens controls covered. But we also have a Fanuc 30i and a Heidenhain conversational. And then we have some of the older control types that you may have if you have an older machine in your shop, like the Cincinnati Achromatic controls. There's also a Bostomatic, and then like a Fanuc 6M. Now I'm going to choose the Fanuc 6M, and the reason I'm choosing it is because these controls on the top are so good, there's really nothing left for me to customize. But the old Finook 6M controls, it gives me an opportunity to show you how to customize a post using Post Builder. So I'll choose Finook 6M, and then I'll turn on the User-Defined Event Editor, and I'll tell you what that is in just a little bit. And then I'll choose OK. It's creating a new post. And now we have a little bit more information on the screen. Post Builder consists of 5 tabs: the Machine Tool tab, the Program and Toolpath tab, NC Data Definitions, Output Settings, and the Virtual NC Controller. Of these 5 tabs, you'll spend the majority of your time in the Program and Toolpath tab. But let's see what we've got for output right now. So I'll choose Save to save my post. I'll place it in the Scratch directory because this is where I'm going to create all these backups as I go. So I've got my post saved. Now I want to test it. So I'll go to my NX window, and I could choose the entire program here, but since I just want to see a little bit of code to see what my post looks like, I'm going to choose one of the operations, and I'll post-process it. I choose the post-process button. Now my new post that I just created is not on this list yet. So what I can do is I can browse for a post processor, and this allows me to go look at the location where I saved that post. Now it's on the list, and I choose OK. And there's my output for my first post. It's not really bad output. I think I could probably live with that in most regards. A couple things I want to change. First off, this post is outputting a G71 code. The machine I'm working for, you need the G71 code. I guess I should explain what G71 is. G71 and G70 are the inch and metric modes. About half the machine tools use G70, G71. The other half use G20, G21. So I want to change that to G20, G21. And I also want to move that to the front of the list. I want to move G90 right after that. Then when we get that proved out, we'll come back and take a look at how to put some information about the tool into the toolpath listing. So, minimize this. I'll go back to my Post Builder dialog, and I want to explain the Machine Tool tab before I leave it. This is where you enter general parameters about the machine tool. What are the linear travel dimensions? Does it accept circular records? If not, we can fake that by a series of short line movements anytime there's a circle record. Do I need to linear motion resolution? Is that fine? What about the rapid traversal? This is how fast the machine moves in rapid mode, and it helps us to estimate the machining time. Do I need to mirror any of the X, Y, or Z dimensions or axes? So I'm going to go to the Program and Toolpath tab next, and this is the meat of Post Builder. This is where you're going to do most of your changes. And there are several sub-tabs along here, as you can see: Program, G-codes, M-codes, word summary, word sequencing. Well, the first thing I said I wanted to do was change the G-code for intrametric mode. So I'm going to click on the G-codes tab. I'm going to scroll down this list, and you'll see that this is all the G-codes that this post will output and what they mean. So inch mode, G70, metric mode, G71. I'm going to change that to 20 and 21. So I've made that change. The other change I said I wanted to make was I wanted to change the word sequencing so that the inch metric mode word was first and then the absolute mode was second. To do that, I choose word sequencing. And here's a list of all the different G codes, X words, all the M codes, anything that's available in this system, and the order it will be output. Now obviously all these G codes and X words and M codes are not going to be output on the same line, but if they are, this is the order that they will be output in. So the one I'm interested in moving is this last G code. Notice it already shows that it's been changed to the G21, G20 event. So I'll just grab this, move it right to the front, and you see that little blue line there? That indicates if I release mouse button 1 now, it will pop in right at the beginning of the list. If I were to do this, where it highlights that box, that means I'm going to swap positions. And I don't really want to swap positions, I just want to move it to the front. So I'll release it there. And I also said that I wanted G91 right after that. So I'll grab G90, move it to the next position in line, and then I never have a P code on my text, so I'm going to suppress the P code simply by turning it off there. By turning it off there, it is suppressed everywhere. I will never have a P code be output in my posted file. So let's check those changes. Save the post again. I'll return back to NX, and I'll post-process my file again. Notice that because I browsed for it before and I was successfully able to use it, I don't have to browse for it every time. So now I've got G21 at the front and G90 following that. So that's what I wanted to do. The other change I said I wanted to make was I don't have any information about this tool code. Obviously there's a tool change going on here, but I don't know anything about the tool. Well, the great thing about Post Builder is it can dive down into NX and gather all kinds of information about the tool, the operating session, the operations, almost anything you can imagine we can grab information about. As an example, I'm going to go back to Post Builder, and if I go in here under Utilities and I say Browse MOM Variables, this is a list of all the different variables and the information that is attached to those variables. It's quite a long list. I'm going to modify that search just a little bit. Instead of looking at everything, I just want to look at the ones that are related to the tool. So you can see even that list is pretty long. There's information about MOM tool angle, so that gives me the angle of the tool. There's one called MOM tool diameter, obviously the tool diameter, heel angle. Some of these only apply to turning cutters, like the insert angle, but all of that information is there and available for you to use. So what I want to do is I want to output the tool diameter, maybe the tool name, and maybe something else. Well, fortunately, I already have a custom command that can do that. If I go back here to the Program tab, or excuse me, the Custom Command tab, I can see a list of all the different custom commands that are in the post processor right now. And these are all the down and dirty code. If you want to really get good with Post Builder and you want to learn the TCL language, you can learn all these commands and you can do this. Or if you're like me, you can simply use the ones that are already in there for you to use and just go off of the commentary data. All of these hashtags indicate that this line is a commentary data. So this is basically telling you, the non-expert, what this custom command will do. The custom command I want is actually not in this post. It's in a library of custom commands that we ship with Post Builder. So if I choose import, it takes me right to the library. And the custom command I had in mind had something to do with tool information. So there's one called toolinformation.tcl. I'll open that up. This custom command will output the name of the tool and the flute length and maybe something else. Okay, well that looks like what I want. So I'll choose OK. And now that custom command has been added to my post. But it's not in the place where I need it to be. If I look at the commentary data at the front, it says this custom command will output the name of the tool diameter, and the flute length. Place this custom command at the start of operation event. Okay, so I go back to the Program subtab, and this is where I need to explain what these events are. There are 5 major events in any program. There's the start sequence. What am I going to do at the beginning of the program? You notice we have G21, G90, G40, G17. You may remember we saw that at the very beginning of this program. This is where it comes from. Then we have an operation start sequence. The operation start sequence will happen every time we encounter a new operation. In my example program, I have 10 operations. Therefore, I'll go through this operation start sequence 10 times. So this is a looping cycle where we go through the operation start sequence, the toolpath information, and then the operation end sequence until we've finished all the operations. Finally, we go to the program end sequence, and there's where we output code like in the program, turn sequence numbers off. So the custom command that I've imported said to place it at the operation start sequence, so I will do that. First, I'll find it on this list. There it is, PBCMD tool information. And then I'll grab this thing called add the block, and I'll simply drag it into place. Now you notice as I move this around that the little white line highlights or indicates where this custom command will go. I said I wanted this at the very beginning of the operation, so I'll just drop it in right there. Now I just want to take us a moment and look at some of this code. This is TCL Code here. If you want to learn more about TCL Code, the great thing about TCL is that it is a free program. Anybody can download and use it. You don't have to purchase a compiler. And there's a lot of great information about it on the web. If you just Google TCL TK, that should take you right to the website where you can get lots of information about what these commands mean and some basic tutorials on how to program in TCL. It's a lot like C or Visual Basic, so if you used any other programming language, you shouldn't have too much trouble with TCL. So I'm going to save my post and test this new output. Post process again. So now I'm getting lots of information about the tool being output. About the only thing I don't like about this is it's still outputting the block numbers or the sequence numbers along with the commentary data. I don't like that. I want to get rid of that. So one more change I'm going to make. Before the tool information gets output, I'm going to add this block called, or this command I should say, called mom set seq off. And as you can probably imagine just by reading it, this command turns sequence numbers off. And the inverse of that would be set sequence on. I'll add that right after. Save this and test it again. So now I'm getting the commentary data without the block numbers being attached. I'm pretty happy with this post. There's one more thing I wanted to show you though. We talked about user-defined events, but I didn't really explain what they are. So let me close this dialog and I'll go into this operation. And this is a typical face milling operation. There's nothing really all that special about it. Just a straight out of the NX face milling operation. So what I want to do is I want to add a new user-defined event to that. So how do I do that? Well, under machine control, there are start of path and end of path events. I'm going to edit a start of path event. And I'm going to look for one called sequence number. I'm going to add that event to this operation. And then I can specify some parameters for this. I'll say that I want to start numbering at 200. I want to increment by 5, and I want to do that for every line number. Now the great thing about that is this dialog, you think this is actually NX dialog, this actually comes from Post Builder. If I go back to Post Builder, and I'll try to get these two things up together so you can see them side by side. If I go into the machine control area under toolpath, you can see a list of these blue items. These are all user-defined events that have been created by Siemens for your use. Now these aren't editable by the user, but if I scroll down a little bit farther, you'll see that there are some green ones. These green ones are editable by the user, and you can also make your own. So if I come over here and do a mouse button 3, I have the opportunity to create a new machine control event. We've only got 20 minutes, so I don't have time to do that. But I do have time to compare an existing one, like sequence number. I'll choose Edit User-Defined Parameters, and if I push these two dialogues together, NX on the left, Post Builder on the right, you can see that these match completely. This dialog in NX actually came from the Post Builder dialog here. Status is active, number type, number increment frequency, number increment frequency. When you understand that you can actually build your own dialogues for NX and customize it any way you want, the possibilities for what you can do with this product are just amazing. They're just mind-boggling. There's one more thing I want to show you. I'm going to hit cancel here, minimize this for now. I'm going to choose OK to this NX dialog for sequence number. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add that to this face milling area. Remember, I showed you earlier, we've got geometry, machine control. I'll collapse all of these so you can see all of the collapsed dialogues. Geometry tool, tool axis, path settings, machine control, program options, and actions. Now what I'll do is I'll add that sequence number to my NX dialog. So I choose Object, Customize. The sequence number event, since I added to the operation, is available for me to add to the dialog. I'll choose Add to Dialog and OK. Now when I open up this face milling dialog, I now have this new area called Start Events Sequence Number. Same parameters that I put in before. So using user-defined events in combination with Post Builder and NX, you can customize these dialogues so that you have the maximum benefit and that you have the greatest productivity. Now one more thing I wanted to mention, and that is, how do I take that post once it's installed, how do I add it to the permanent list? Well, I do that by choosing Tools, Install NC Post Processor. I go to where I've saved my post at, choose OK. Then I can add some description about it. Determine where it's going to be placed at on the list and choose OK. And now when I choose the post process, that tool or that post will always be on my list to choose from. Okay, Aaron, I think I'm ready for you to take over.
Okay, let's pull the slides back up. I think maybe you had a summary slide, Jim?
Oh yeah, there was a couple things I wanted to mention. If I go to this slide here, just shows that the Post Builder user-defined event editor is actually used to create the NX dialog. I think we've already talked about that. But some Post Builder tips. If you're creating your own post processor, and it really doesn't matter if you're using NX Post Builder or some other system, you want to really do a good job of testing. I found that most errors occur when I haven't tested my posts thoroughly. So an example here is if I'm testing coolant, I want to test coolant off and coolant on, but I also want to make sure if I don't specify what the coolant is, what will it do? What will the system do? So make sure you're testing for all possible outcomes of a new function. And you'll notice that as I was testing my post, that I was doing it incrementally. I installed the new function, I tested it to make sure it worked correctly, and then I went to install another new function. I get in big trouble if I try to install 7 or 8 things at the same time, because then when I get an error, I'm not sure where the error comes from. Always save backups, and my goal is to keep the NC programmer input as low as possible. So while the user-defined events are really cool and I love to add them, if I can figure out a way to make the post understand how to turn something on or off, I'll do that instead of making another dialog or a button for the NC programmer to push. Okay, I think that's it from my side.
Okay.